Their only free agents of significance are Orlov, Burns, Roslovic. Okay, you could maybe throw in Eric Robinson too, but they have $28.4 million in cap space, Frank. If Carolina wanted to just blow the doors off with an offer to, I'm not just saying Marner, but like any free agent, they absolutely could.
Any trade candidate, really. Remember the Jake Gensel trade from a year plus ago? They didn't give up any of their top 5 prospects. They still have them all. They've drafted it almost as well as anyone. They've got a great pipeline and cap space. And by the way, with their UFAs, all they have to do is snap their fingers and those guys would be back because they've engaged in some discussions with them preliminarily to at least understand or know what those numbers would be to keep them.
Just snap their fingers.
Right?
Yes, that's exactly how it works. That was from the Daily Face-Off. Frank Saravalli is the man behind that. I am Adam Gold. This is the Adam Gold Show. Victoria is here, and happy to welcome in the head coach of your Carolina Hurricanes, Mr. Rod Brind'Amour. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Adam. How you doing?
We're doing very well here. First of all, happy 19th anniversary. Do you know what happened 19 years ago tonight?
I do. I thought it was yesterday, so you got me. I'm good. It's either way, it's a long time. A long time ago.
Does it feel like a long time ago to you?
No, that's the problem. I mean, life's just ticking by here, so we got to create some more memories. That's what we got to be doing.
All right, well, we're going to get to more memories in a second. I am just curious, just to finish the conversation about the 19th anniversary. Do your guys, the group chat from those teams, whether it's Brett Hedican or Kevin Adams or whoever would be on it, do you guys, communicate about that night at all?
Inevitably, someone's going to send a text out on our group chat. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. Someone always sends a picture, and then that generates the whole conversation. And, you can imagine the text that comes flying through, and then it dies down for another year. But, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah, maybe they think it's tomorrow. You thought it was yesterday. Maybe well, happy 19th anniversary anyway. So before we get to bridging the gap between the Hurricanes and the Panthers, I am curious, because this is the way I felt Tuesday night. I was thrilled to see how successful Hurricanes hockey was, because anybody that has watched your teams play over the last 7 years recognized exactly what Florida did. Forecheck, pressure, neutral zone, back checking, creating turnovers, and putting the puck in the net. So based on everything that was said over the last, during the playoff run, do you feel in any way like, see, this style does work?
Wow, it's nothing that we hadn't known for a long time. To me, this is, and what we're really saying is you just kind of covered it off. It's very competitive hockey that's aggressive, but you don't want to beat yourself. And so there's a certain mindset you have to play that way. And clearly you got to have good players too. Let's just be real here. To take advantage of the turnovers is what I think they did better than any team I've ever really seen, is capitalizing when, there's your little turnover and now the talent takes over. And, it just seemed every time there was a mistake, it ended up in the net. And that's kind of the way they did it, went about their business, and you have to give them credit. Obviously, this is not a fluke.
Right.
It never is to win a Stanley Cup, but to do it basically 3 times, they got there 3 times, once or twice. It's impressive, and you got to tip your hat.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think this is one of the best teams I've ever seen. I think this run is the best of the salary cap era. I also found it interesting that Paul Maurice was in the handshake line after the game. Did you notice that at all?
I turned it off about 2 minutes ago. I heard about it. I mean, I've talked about it enough. I know something that's so silly to be mentioned this much is insane, to be honest with you.
I just found it. I don't know. Maybe I was feeling a certain type of way watching the game Tuesday night. All right, so Rod Brind'Amour is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. And we can't get into players because that would break rules. Where, if you could identify areas where your team needs to get better to bridge the gap with that team?
Well, Yeah. I mean, you're right. You can't name players and things, but I think it's with our group, it's not really. I'm not sitting here saying we're satisfied with any part of our game. You know, we want all of it to be a little bit better, and so. You know, you whatever way we can do that. It could be. You mentioned this last year, and it was a very good point in the offseason about certain players taking their game to another level.
Yeah,
like sometimes that's what all you need. And we with the young guys that we still have in our group, and then I heard you mention them before I got on. Like a couple of the young guys we're adding potentially. Like it's what impact can they have? You know, where their game going to be. So to me, that might just be it. That, you know, that's an area that, okay, we just got a little better there. Obviously, you know, can we be better with Freddie and Cooch in the net? Can maybe find a little betterness? Can Freddie stay healthy? Does that help us get a little better during the regular season? But, you know, all these things add up. And then, you know, Tom and Eric are scouring every opportunity to get any player that they think could help us into this mix. So that all remains to be seen.
I mean, they have to spend some money just to stay compliant with the salary cap floor. So I think that number is probably in the neighborhood of $7 or so million just to be cap compliant.
Don't worry about that.
I'm not worried about it. And
that I can promise you will be spent.
All right, so. Let me ask you about the center position. And speaking of which, because you alluded to it there, and I've been saying this for years, and we can go back years. I said, you know, when we still had Martin H's, that he was an area where if he improves, it changes the game. We could talk about Andrei Svechnikov. If he has, I mean, he didn't have a great season. We understand that. If Andrei has a season we expect, Carolina's going to get better automatically simply because he will be providing more. The center position, are you getting out of it today? Well, not today, but you know, have you gotten out of it what you need to get out of it to catch Florida?
Yeah, I mean listen, there's no secret there. We need a little more production, and you know, it really, you don't want to just boil it down to one player because that's not really fair. But you know, there's an area I think if we're talking being realistic about, okay, we talked about Svech being a little bit better. And, you know, you might mention Nate just when he was with us, he was better.
Yep.
Like when he came back, right? I think he led the league in scoring there for the first month or whatever. So, like that, there you go. And that's the kind of stuff we need. I think with what we're talking about, you know, Kotkaniemi, he's got to be on the score sheet if he's going to be in that role. So we have to get more than, you know, kind of, I think he had one goal in the last 35 games or something like that. You know, there's an area right there. Can he be better, right? Like that, he's going to have to be if that's taking these next steps. So, but it's not just him. There's other guys too. But I mean, I think you know, we made a nice trade and brought in Jankowski. He got better.
Yep.
Like he produced for us. Like, so you just don't know where it's going to come from. But there's certain positions you got to get it done, especially the role that you're in. So. You know, that's an area, you know, our power play's got to get better. I mean, it was good at times. It just has to be more consistent. And that's an area that, you know, if we can get that a little sharper, certainly that'll help. But, there's, you know, really you can go up and down the lineup. There's room we have to be, you know, there's room to get better, I believe, and we have to if we want to, you know, make that next step.
Rod Brind'Amour is joining us here. Sebastian Aho did not have the best. You know, he has had better point-producing seasons. I certainly don't think he had a bad year by any stretch of the imagination, but needed to be more goals, and he needed to be like what we saw in Game 5 against Florida. The way he played, the fact that he scored 2 goals also matters, but the way he approached the game looked like a little bit more fiery. I don't know what your discussion was. In the exit meeting with him, but that's the Aho we need.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly that was a great start there for him. But I think just in general, you're right. At the assessment, you know, if he's our number one line, whoever he's with, that has to produce like a number one line, I think. And I think during that regular season, you know, that there was, you know, that was him and Svech. They really struggled most of the year together until we actually got them in the playoffs, and they kind of started clicking. But that line has to be better, so everyone has to be a tad better in whatever they're doing. But I know they're capable of it. I think that's the key. I think we know you saw it. You saw it there in that last game that you're referencing. I mean, he's got it in him. Scoring on he had a breakaway there.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I mean, how many breakaways did he miss this year? Right? Like, he actually scored on that one. And it's like, okay, now can he get a few more of those to go in next year? Because we're going to need that. Like, he's getting the opportunities. So I feel like, yeah, he can be a little bit better. I do, someone's not going to be better. Like, everyone, you can't have everyone on the team keep getting better. But I think the key guys that we've talked about here, if they can continue to just get a little bit more, then that's what we're going to need.
Rod Brind'Amour is joining us here. You don't really use Sebastian Aho in shootouts. There weren't a lot of shootouts for Carolina this year, but you don't really use him in shootouts, and it's odd because he is, whether we're arguable or not, is your best forward, and he really, he's the third, fourth, fifth, sixth choice when you get to a shootout. Did you tell him just go work on breakaways in the offseason?
Yeah.
Do that.
No, we don't, but it is interesting when you look at, when you start doing the shootout stuff, usually what happens is there's one or two guys that you're obvious on most teams because their percentages are really high.
Yeah.
If you look at our team, Sesh is our guy that actually scores at an above average rate.
Yeah.
And everyone else is actually really below, like way below.
Right.
So that's an area you think Seabass, we should throw him out there, but he's struggled in that area. So we've kind of got it. That's an area we can be better too. Like, I know it doesn't seem like much, but that's a point here or there. Maybe throughout the year we lost, I think, 4 or 5 shootouts. Could be a big deal. So it's certainly an area we work on, and those guys do too. But it's whatever reason we haven't been great at that.
Let me ask you about, first of all, who's the best shootout guy you ever watched?
Ever? Oh, geez, ever. That's a tough question. Who was the best back when we played was a guy I know would know really well and is that Matt Cohen.
Yeah?
Believe it or not. He had that little kick move. He would come in and almost stop and then do a little kick move and just, very confident he could score. It felt like at will. We had a few guys. Witt was always good.
Mm-hmm.
But some guys just have a knack for it, it's a different, you watch Jarvie on a full-on breakaway, he's very good in a game because he doesn't miss too many, but then in the shootout, he struggles too. It's like they almost have too much time to think about it at times, but they'll get better at that as they move along here, I'm sure of it.
Too slow. Speed and come in wide. By the way, UC Jokinen was also phenomenal at it. You should bring UC back just to coach shootouts. All right, let's get to defense. So there are options for you on the blue line, and I don't know how much you are. I'm sure you're heavily involved in these types of discussions. I know how much you like Brent Burns. Where do you see his best role on this team if they choose to bring him back?
Yeah, well, we do love him. I mean, he's still a very, very, very good hockey player, and I think, I think we mentioned it before. I think him this year was a really good year because he ended up having to play the most against the best players. Him and Slavo got the tough matchup the whole year, and where he hadn't really had that in the previous years he was with us, just because of the makeup of our group. So he kind of got thrust in there. I thought, obviously, we did a pretty good job. I mean, we're one of the better defensive teams in the NHL. It's the tough part is we know he's getting up there.
Yeah.
And yet I also know that sometimes that just people just assume you're getting slower and less shape and this and that when really he takes pretty good care of himself. So if he was 25, we wouldn't be talking about it, and he's in as good a shape as guys that are 25. So sometimes you have to take that out and just kind of look at it for what it is. Maybe if we got him in a better matchup, would that certainly help? I think it would, because he's still an elite player. You watch when he gets the puck on his stick, good things happen, and so strong still. Exits the zone on the penalty kill. There's just a lot of positives there. Not to mention all the intangibles he brings. So, we've talked about that a lot. I would love to see him come back. That's, kind of out of my hands. It's between, Brent. I know he wants to come back, but there's a business side of it, and we all know how that works. So we'll see where that ends up. And, it also probably determines where we go as far as, you talk about the cap space and how you use it with free agents and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's not a ton of free agents out there to go get, and everybody's got cap space.
Yeah.
So, and so that's not as easy as people think.
All right, a couple of more things real quick for Rob Brind'Amour. First of all, I heard you mention it in one of your press conferences during the postseason. People didn't realize this. I pointed it out. 30 NHL defensemen this year played at least 180 minutes shorthanded. Burns was among them, and he was on the ice for the fewest goals allowed by a substantial number, by like 8 over the course of the season, and that included, well, actually, that was just at 5-on-4, but even at 5-on-3, he was on the ice for the fewest goals allowed of anybody shorthanded, and even if you did it per 60 minutes, he was still lowest. So he was an elite penalty killer for you this season. I talked to Jacob Slavin after the exit meeting, and it was eye-opening. I asked him, play GM for me, and I don't want about a player. I need to know an element that you wanted your team to get better at. And he said physicality. Jacob Slavin. And he called himself out for that. Yeah. I pointed out that he knocked Alexander Barkov on his rear end, but do you agree with Jacob?
Oh, well, listen, we all want to have a little more of that. And I think it gets a little bit overblown at times because we did up the ante in the playoffs on the physicality part of it. And I think we out-hit every team we played in the playoffs. So, like, that was a real positive for me. We're just, we're definitely built a little differently. And it's not even the size-wise. Everyone talks about our small forwards because we do have some smaller forwards, but we also have Will Carrier and Jordan and Spesh, and we got Robbie and KK. These are all huge forwards. So it's just our top guys are they're undersized, but they got the dog in them and they fight like crazy. So I feel like it kind of cancels itself out. What we probably don't have is the guy that's willing to slit the other guy's throat.
Right.
And there's an element of that you can see in the playoffs, depending how it gets called. Now in the finals, it would feel like it was a little different, but certainly in the first 3 rounds, it was an element that wasn't being called, and it certainly had its effectiveness. So I think that's more something that we can look at maybe as a team, just being a little more, I'm sorry, but I might have to slit your throat kind of thing. But it's not about fighting because I don't even know if I saw a fight in the playoffs. Right. So it's just about having that mentality, and we got a nice group, guys that you'd love to have, marry your daughters, they're very nice guys, but we maybe have to have a little more meanness to us at certain times, and that's probably what he's talking about.
Yeah, look, I think Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk are great teammates, and playing against them. That's when you don't like him. I find all that stuff fascinating, and I bring them up only because we watch them play. I don't frankly believe that Sam Bennett will be available to teams not named the Florida Panthers coming up in a few days, but that's just me. All right, what's next? What is on your agenda the next week?
Yeah, well, we're trying to get guys signed, and so I'm staying in the loop on that, and our guys. Yeah. And so then they got the draft, so kind of looking at that a little bit, not much as I used to. I used to get way more involved in it, but and then obviously taking a look and see, okay, July 1 comes around, who's there? Get the list ready, because if guys are available, we got to start making our pitches. So that's all kind of in the works, and then hopefully, you get through that, and then you actually have a little downtime. Golf for you, beach. Yeah, I try. I suck at it, but it's all right. I enjoy it. Enjoy getting out with me. It's more getting out with my boys, so we can have some time together, and then listen to your show whenever I can. And I'm gonna start giving you more grief on stuff that I don't agree with.
Bring it on.
You're gonna get random texts throughout the summer, I'm sure.
Bring it on. And I've failed at this in the past, but I will not this year. We will talk, as often as you're willing, and we'll talk about things that are not hockey related, and we could just go back and forth.
It's been 10 years you've been saying we've been doing that.
I understand.
So
I'm going to do it this year.
All right, buddy.
Promise. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
See you, buddy. Yep,
You got
bye.
it. Rod Brind'Amour here on the Adam Gold Show.